Hello Thistledown gang, welcome back to my channel if you've already been here. If not, hello, it is lovely to have you here. Please stay, and by that I mean subscribe. So last year around this time, I read this article in a second-hand dolls magazine about the tradition of having dolls in eggs in Easter nests and like Easter baskets. We do nests in Germany, but most of the time they're also in baskets. Never mind. So I decided to do that too. The doll was 50 cent in the toys section of the second-hand store, and the egg was €1. And so there was absolutely nothing holding me back. The doll comes from, I guess, one of those surprise packages from the LOL or LOL dolls line, and she has very little hair and very big eyes. I have done a bit of doll modification in the past, and the whole taking the face off is kind of one of my favorite parts. I just find it very absurd, and also it makes you admire the face mold more. Speaking of the face mold, I tried to kind of be inspired by what these honestly quite creepy looking dolls in the eggs in the magazine had. Well, it's kind of hard to do with this face mold, because the eyes are so incredibly large that it looks like she has the worst under-eye rings I have ever seen, and I do own a mirror, so it's bad. But I do like the gradient I did there with the eyes. That's actually pretty good. I decided to paint her under things on rather than sewing some, because that would have been so bulky, and the doll is very tiny, so that would have just been too much. I really enjoyed making her dress, which you will see in just a bit, but for the undies, painting on was a very good idea. And I really like this dotting tool lace that I managed to put on there. Also for the bloomers, I think that's really cute. And she got some blue details, because blue is the main color for this doll, as an homage for the antique dolls in the magazine. And I really enjoyed painting on her tiny shoes and these details. Oh, and then I took the face off again, because honestly this was just a sleep paralysis demon in the making. I don't mind the eyebrows. I really like the eyebrows actually, so I kept those. I liked the lips. Those were the best I could do without actually modeling the mouth shut, because I guess this was originally meant for some sort of bottle or something that came with the doll, maybe. At least it looks like a monchichi, and they had those whole mouth thingies for their thumbs, I think. I never owned one, but my best friend in elementary had one. And I have this thing where I have a really hard time painting eyes that just look forward. Like, a single eye is fine, you've seen me do that, but two eyes usually go to the side. And this is also a thing with selfies I take. I rarely just look straight on, I usually look to the side. I've been doing this since I was a teenager, and it just never stopped. I'm sorry that you see so much of my hair here, but it's the only detail shots I have of me painting the eyes, and I really like how they turned out, so please bear with me. I decided to reroute her hair rather than use what was already there, because I was very little, and so I decided she also needed more, and I just drew these kind of part lines, I think, with an alcoholic marker, and then used them all to pre-poke the holes where the hair was supposed to come out of. The wool I use is some synthetic from Woolworth, and the color reminded me of the literal flaxen hair that old dolls sometimes have. I don't know how well versed you all are with rerouting doll hair, and maybe I am preaching to the choir, and maybe people actually know better than me, but this is how I do it. I put 2 strands of hair on a needle, and then I make a little knot, and then I pull it from the inside out. I guess you could probably do it the other way round and then knot it, or cut it short and glue it on the inside, or just, flood the inside of the head with glue. rather than making the knots all of the time, because that takes a lot of time, as you can see in the time lapse. Even though it's a time lapse, it's an annoying amount of time. Yeah, but this is the way I do it. There was enough space in the head for all of this luscious hair, and so I decided to go for the knot solution. You might have seen my hair before. I do not need a hairbrush, but I do like a scalp massage, and so I do own one, which came in very handy at this point. I did a bit of turning, twisting, I don't know, but in the end turned out to be kind of a nice head of hair. I used the same alcohol marker to put a bit of texture in there, not texture, more like variation, and give her some roots, because even natural blondes sometimes look like they have slightly darker roots. And I just like the effect of it, not being such a block of blonde, basically. I then decided to sew the hair on rather than just do some sort of braiding, because the hair is too short, or rather the doll is too small for the hair to develop any kind of realistic drape or realistic weight. It's just this short floof of hair that stands around, and I wanted it to lie decently around the head and be kind of molded around the head, so that's why I decided to rather sew it on than do anything else. This kind of goes against my principles of making dolls and miniatures, because I like it when things are usable and basically an actual toy that you could play with and maybe do different hair or take clothes off or put things in different orders. I just like it when the essence of the toy isn't really lost, like the essence of play. But in this case, I decided to go against my own principles and rather sew it all together. And honestly, I really like the result. I am not the best braider. When I had almost hip-long hair, I had no idea what to do with it. I only ever threw it into a bun and then did nothing. So the dress I made is slightly inspired by the dolls in the magazine. Therefore it's blue, because all of them had blue dresses. Might have to do something with indigo being easy to dye or something. I honestly am not deep enough in 19th century dye lore to exactly know this. And for the dress I just used several types of trims that I had lying around and based it a kind of trapezoid shape for the main body. And I decided that I wanted stripes because for some reason blue stripes are so very much a simple dress staple for the turn of the century. And I also decided to color in the roses of the trim because I thought that was a nice little detail. If you haven't noticed yet, I really do enjoy making small things. And because I couldn't just let her have her undies, she also got a little petticoat. It sits a bit weird, to be honest, because she doesn't really have a waist. And as you saw in the very beginning when I showed you the doll for the first time, she actually didn't even have real fabric clothing. She had a molded piece of plastic for a dress. So yeah, they just circumvented these problems. And as I said, I really like it when clothes can be taken off, so I actually put a little hook and eye closure in the back. The back doesn't cover her back, but it's about the principle, you know? And I used the smaller trim for very simple sleeves. They're just turned over once and then stitched on, so she can put her arms through there. And you might ask, hey, if this is from last year, why didn't you show that to us earlier? Didn't you just finish it on time or something? And I might have just not had the capacity to edit this, and this being very seasonal, I decided to wait until this year with editing. That was very smart of me. I decided to put in a tiny bit of the same lace that I used for the petticoat for kind of it's a bit of a shirtwaist or insert for the dress, either way, it was so that she actually looked like someone who was wearing a dress and not just a piece of lace that was ruffled. I just stitched that to the hem of the upper hem of the dress and to the sleeves, essentially making up a closed front and then putting in a bit of elastic again so it could go over her neck as long as she wasn't wearing her head, just so that it was absolutely, completely removable. I sadly don't have any footage of me sewing on her buttons because I really like those. You'll see those in the end. But I did give her some hair ties just so her braids wouldn't look so boring, and I had painted two rose beads with acrylic paint. They were just very shiny and one of them was even yellow. But it's good enough, and sewed those into her hair. The tiny leaves are from some very cheap greenery garland stuff, and I just cut individual leaves of that off to put into the rose beads. I do know that roses aren't particularly typical Easter flowers, but you know, they were there and kind of matched what I had for the egg outside. Oh, and also the glazing of the eyes is a very, very important step. It's so satisfying to finally have the doll finished and then the eyes are very, very gleamy. I like that. Okay, let's go on to the egg. I sanded it and then I treated it with some nail polish remover to really get the edges as clean as possible, and then I gessoed it just for a nice foundation and then painted over everything with basically, yeah, the same type of paint I used for her eyes, so we have coherence. And one of the eggs in the magazine had a hare outside. In Germany, it's very much a Easter hare, not an Easter bunny. I do like hares. I, in fact, have a tattoo of a hare. I mean, it's half fish, but never mind. And I wanted some greenery outside. Mushrooms aren't exactly a very spring-like thing either. I might have gotten those from the magazine. I just don't know anymore right now. And I had those tiny wooden eggs that I wanted to use in decorating the inside later. You'll see that. And that's where I got the kind of, what's it called, rural painting, like very farm country painting style for the flowers, for the eggs from. It's funny, every time I do something with acrylic, I have the deep urge to say I have no idea what I'm doing, but I've been doing this for a while now, and I've been painting in acrylics for a while now, so I don't think I can say that anymore. I decided to use colored pencils rather than only acrylics for the hair, because in the magazine the hair was very obviously a print and with a lot of fine line work, things like that, and I wanted to kind of emulate that without having to go through designing it on paper and then coloring it or printing it out and then coloring it and then putting it, like Mod Podging it onto the egg or something. And this was honestly the safest bet. I mean, I guess I can say I haven't done anything with colored pencils in a very long time. They're more like a means to an end. I sometimes use them for details, but not a lot. So I guess I can say that about something, but I really like how it turned out. I did some of the fluff on the ears and the whiskers and the sides of the head with some more acrylic just for the contrast. I kind of like how it looks. Very, not exactly mixed media, but mixed paint types, I guess. I think in the end the flowers look a bit like carnations, but are carnations in bloom right now? I would have to look that up. I'll probably just put it on the screen if I did. And then I worked over everything with a bit of a wash, like just to bring it all together. I do like washes. I think this is a sepia wash from what is it? It's a miniature painting brand. It comes in handy in so many situations. I've even used it on its own. For the inside, I decided to go for green flannel that I had lying around. I like flannel, it's a very old-fashioned fabric, kind of felt right for what I was trying to pay homage to, and then I just glued it in there. It was a lot of gluing and then pawing at it and trying to get the folds out and cutting things off again, and it was a bit of a mess, but in the end it worked out, and I decided to paint the inside with some more grass leaves just to give it a bit more texture, and I tried to match kind of the shade of the flannel as best as I could. It's not exactly perfect, it looks a bit like Hellfire. But sometimes I see antique toys and they seem charmingly self-made, even though sometimes they actually come from factories. I think that's kind of lovely. And so that allows me basically to do a thing that doesn't look perfect. And honestly, I am someone in the 21st century trying to kind of recreate the spirit of a turn of the century or 19th century toy with things from the thrift store and what amounts to be basically the dollar store. I think it's good. I think it's fine. I'm just very harsh with myself sometimes. And for some more details, I decided to cut some velvet ribbon into a zigzag, essentially. Other than the velvet they would have used in the 19th century, this is polyester, so I can just burn it a little to seal it. Very, very handy. By the way, the people in the 19th century were absolutely obsessed with velvet ribbon. I have this project where I concern myself a lot with a fashion magazine, basically from the 1850s to the 1900s, and these people are obsessed with velvet ribbons, at least in Germany. So I rolled it up into a little spiral and basically made a nest out of it, just burning some edges again that frayed due to the strain of the winding it up, and then gluing the eggs into there. Those are the aforementioned eggs. Yes, I know that the flowers are upside down. That's because the wide part of the egg is supposed to be up, because they used to be hanging ornaments, but I think it's good enough. You know, done is better than perfect, and honestly, done and kind of good is also nice. I do like the effect of the hair. It is a bit creepy, to be honest, but so are the originals that I tried to kind of emulate. And while her face mold is nothing like a 19th century doll, some of her details are, hey, there's buttons. I really like those. Those are tiny rock-high beads, and I really like how the top part of the dress worked out. So, am I going to do this again? Maybe. Do I already have a larger papier-mâché egg somewhere in my craft room? Maybe. Am I going to do it on time next time?